Welcome to another episode of Dana Being Dana. I am your host, Dana Michelle, and it's Thursday, y'all. It is Thursday, but we are live in studio at Intellectual Radio. Great. And I appreciate Intellectual Radio, my home studio that has supported me from the beginning. I produce my radio shows here, Intellectual Radio, IntellectualRadio.com. If you don't have Facebook, if your computer's acting up, if Facebook won't let you be great, check out our show at IntellectualRadio.com where the show is live. It's great to be here on a Thursday. I will say this because the J Spot just aired their show. It's another show that I'm a fan of. It's a show hosted by two women who are out here doing amazing things. So please check out the J Spot if you're checking out IntellectualRadio.com and everything that they've got going on. I'm here by myself in the studio for the first time in 115 episodes. Isn't that crazy? Right? We always talk about they clown me because I have a lot of people on my show usually, and it's usually a full house in here. Sometimes we have chairs on both sides and a whole lot going on. But tonight it is just me in studio. But on the phone, I have my good friend Jackie Curie. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's so good to have you on this show. I'm going to introduce you in a little bit, but first I want to make a couple of announcements. First, we've got the Women Supporting Women episode of Dana Being Dana on Naperville Community Television. Please check it out. It's on nctv17.com, nctv17.com. It's a great episode, and I'm not just saying that because I'm incredibly biased. I've got a bunch of people who are on the show telling their stories, two women who have had personal experience with issues with assault. One woman was kidnapped, and another woman has just been in so much contact with people who have struggled. And they started nonprofit foundations focused on supporting women and girls who are in need of that type of empowerment. And so PAVE, Promoting Awareness, Victim Empowerment, and the Fusion Project. The Fusion Project will be coming back here the next time we're back in studio. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But we had two watch parties last week. Powerful Partners at Sullivan's and Aurelio's Pizza. So I just want to thank everybody who turned out for those, who have watched the show, who have supported us. I love it when women come together. I love it when women support each other. They say when women shine their light in the same direction, amazing. So I'm just super excited to collaborate with so many women. We're going to be talking about that a little bit more in the show, but please register and join us on February 8th at 7:30 at Naperville Italian Autos. If you like Maseratis and all kinds of fancy cars, please join us. It's for PAVE, which again is Promoting Awareness, Victim Empowerment, and it's going to be a great event. It's models, cars, vodka, a great time. We've got incredible sponsors. I'm on the host committee, and I'm super excited about it. So if you want to come out and hang, I'd love to hang with you. Please register at www.pave, P-A-V-E, pavefashionshow.org. Please come out. Angela Rose, who is on my Women Supporting Women episode, is the founder and executive director of PAVE. And she's got an incredible story about her own kidnapping and her survival and how she turned her survival into thriving. And I love what she's doing in her life and empowering other people. So she's back from DC. She moved to DC, came back, and she's just doing incredible things. On the phone is Jacqueline. She wrote an amazing book that we're going to tell you a little bit about and how she came to that. It's called My Gift to You. Go to my timeline, check it out. She's got a way for you to order that. Check out her website. She's doing awesome things, and we're going to get into Jackie's story. We're going to tell you all about Jackie. But before we do that, Jackie, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Fantastic. Thank you all so much. I see people sharing the show and tuning in. Please share. Please start a watch party. We're super excited about this episode, and we almost didn't have it today because Facebook wouldn't let us be great. Just so y'all know, PSA, if you're ever trying to share on Facebook where you're trying to bring somebody into your video, that feature, which used to be out there, has now been disabled for the time being. And so I don't know when it's coming back, but just make sure you check that because that's what we were going to do tonight. And it wouldn't work for us yesterday when we tested it out. So once again, thank you to Wanda and Earl here at Intellectual Radio for allowing me to come in, not on my show time, not in my show allotment, which is Wednesday nights, But I'm so glad that I'm able to be here and get Jackie on the phone and we can talk about women supporting women because it is such an important. Don't feel like people do it in meaningful and tangible ways. And so many negative things happen when women don't support each other. Jackie, can you talk? My first question for you is what does women supporting women mean to you?
Well, to me, it means being comfortable and confident enough in who you are as a woman so that you might be able to be open to supporting another woman to be her best self, right? Because we can't support people wholeheartedly in being their best selves if we are not confident in who we are.
I think that's so true. Absolutely true. And what's interesting when it comes to how you feel about yourself, that colors your perception of what you see in other people. Once
Right.
again, that colors your perception of what you see. So how you feel about you can turn into your projection in what you see in other people. Often our perception of other women, other people, is a reflection of how we feel about ourselves. And I think it's shaped by our interactions with women around us, whether past or present. If you have not had a positive interaction with women historically, you will struggle when you encounter women who got it going on. I see a lot of this in women who are incredibly talented or beautiful or successful. We project our own insecurities onto them. Oh, she's so pretty. She can't have any struggles or nothing bad happens to her or why is she complaining, etc. And what people don't realize is that everybody struggles. Everybody has hangups, everybody has insecurities. And so it's about not projecting what we think is their utopia. So I want to back up a little bit. I want to talk about how you and I met because we go way back. This isn't somebody who I've met just recently since I started my show. Jackie and I reconnected on social media, and I've just had the pleasure of watching Jackie and all the amazing things that she's doing. She's a Chicago native, and she's relocated to Charlotte, the Charlotte area, which is why she's calling in today. And we're going to talk about everything, in her history. But let's talk about how we met.
Okay.
You want to tell the story, girl?
No, you tell the story.
So Jackie and I met. It's got to be around the 1990s, 97, 98.
I was thinking 96, 97.
Yeah, something around. Yep, that's exactly right. Jackie was one of the best friends of someone that I dated back in the day. And because of that, we didn't get along right away. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Number one, let me say I appreciate you respecting the friendship enough to say that I was one of his best friends. I never thought of myself that way. I just thought of myself as someone he cared about, kind of like a little sister.
Right? Very, very much so. Yep. And he did. That's true.
I was 4 years younger than him. He had become I was not doing well in Spanish class, and they threatening me, you're going to have a tutor if you can't get this together. And I'm like, who are the tutors? And they, mistakenly told me who the tutors would be. And the guy that you dated, I don't want to out him, but the guy that you dated was one of the tutors. And I had a little crush on him, a little childhood crush. I was 12. And so I'm like, oh yeah, I need a tutor.
Yeah, you needed a tutor, right?
Yeah, so all of a sudden I really needed a tutor.
There you go.
I said, well, yeah, he could be my tutor. And you know what? Through tutoring me, he taught me to tap into my own capabilities and not that I didn't know about, right? To see your knowledge and what I didn't know. And so that became a very intense dating you. And I remember when he started dating you and he's like, yeah, and her name is Dana. And I'm like, mm-hmm. And then when I finally met you, it shut everything down inside of me, it's almost like I projected. No, really, I was attached to him. I had an attachment. And so him introducing me to somebody else, to me, it just got in between us. So it didn't matter that you were dating. It was someone who was significant.
And I want to stop right there because I think, number one, I appreciate your transparency and I appreciate your honesty. And I'm going to talk about the whole encounter from my perspective as well. But I talk about this all the time because the relationships that you have around you, right? You have to, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to dating, you have to keep a lot of different things in perspective. And what I have always said when it comes to dating and relationships, because this same scenario has happened to me several times since then. And you and I talked about that when we first reconnected. But not everybody's happy for you and your happily ever after. And what I mean by that is that sometimes people get comfortable with their little place in your world. It could be your mama, it could be your sister, it could be your cousin, it could be your friend, it could be your little sister, your mentee, whoever it is. I met one guy one time and it was the first and last date. And he told me that he had a friend who said to him, if you got a girlfriend, if you got married, I would really have a problem with that because you're my plus one. You're who I bring to the Christmas parties. You're who I go to the movies with. You're who I work out with. You're who I hang out with. And I was like, okay, this is going to be somebody who's going to be a problem. It's going to be, it's not a healthy relationship in terms of him developing connections with other people. Now, the relationship, I mean, it wasn't even a relationship. We decided not to pursue that. But I remember meeting you as well. And we were all young. So let's say that, right? We were all very, very young teenagers. And I didn't understand why you didn't like me. And I couldn't, I thought it had to be because you liked him or something along those lines. And so a lot of times signals get crossed, things get lost in translation. And it was more so, I think you were just, who is this new person? And what does that mean for my relationship with him? But for me, I wonder the same thing. And so a lot of times it's kind of like when you have a new sibling, when you have a child and you bring a second child into the world, there's more love to give. It's not necessarily losing, but it's what you could possibly be gaining. And so as a result, we didn't get along, right?
Right.
Right. So there was tension in that relationship. I don't think that there were proper boundaries when we were teenagers. I don't think that there was anything of an infidelity perspective. I could be wrong. But I think that you weren't the only friend that he had that had issue with me coming into his life. And the problem with that was that it impacted our relationship. As you know now, obviously, relationships can't thrive if you don't have the proper boundaries, right? When it's two people together, they have to protect not only the relationship but each other in that. And everyone else has to form appropriate and respective boundaries for whatever parameters they have set for their relationship. So,
okay, can I speak on that for a minute?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because I think this is so important, especially since you and I just, we flow in conversation, but as a clinician, I can't let the moment pass without using it as an educational moment. Right?
Say it.
And so in reality, it actually was not anything. When you said, well, is it me? It had nothing to do with my feelings about you.
I know.
We often treat people, and the audience needs to hear this, right? This is critical and crucial. We often treat people based on our internal perception of ourselves.
Say that again.
We often treat people based on the internal perception we have of ourselves. So my life, and my older brother and I were not close. So once I met this person who treated me with respect and he was older than me, he fit right into that void.
Yes.
For me.
Yes.
So him dating someone was not about him liking a girl and having a relationship. It was about any relationship with a female that could have gotten in the middle of me and his relationship.
Right. Right.
Does that make sense now?
Yeah, it totally makes sense now. And just for clarification, can you just tell everybody what your profession is? I think it's a great time to tell everybody what you do now because you're amazing. And we just need to understand how qualified you are to be saying
Oh,
what you're
yes.
saying.
I'm going to say this. I am qualified.
Yeah, we know. We know.
Speak on mental health. I am a licensed mental health counselor.
Yes.
And I have been for several years.
Yes.
I got my bachelor's in psychology in undergrad, a master's at Illinois School of Professional Psychology. So I am a therapist and currently the clinical director of a day treatment program. And I'm the host of a radio show called The Couch.
How can people reach you, Jackie?
You can email me at info@JacquelineCurie.org.
Perfect.
My website is JacquelineCurie.org.
CURRIE.
Yeah.
Jacqueline Curie.
Yeah, I forgot one of my something to add to my list of what I do.
Yes.
I'm also newly a co-host on a mental health segment on Fox 46 Charlotte. So I'm really excited about that.
That's awesome. And congratulations to you on that, because I think that's huge. And I appreciate the platform that you've been given and the blessing, the favor that you have to bring your message of spreading awareness to mental health and mental health issues. So if you want to reach Jackie, JacquelineCurie.org. And is it info@JackieCurie.org? JacquelineCurie.org?
Info@JacquelineCurie.org, yeah.
Got it. So if you want to follow up with her, she's gorgeous. You've seen her picture. If you're watching the YouTube version on IntellectualRadio.com, you can see her. She's amazing. She's incredible. And please feel free to reach out. This is a great time. Can we also buy your book on the website?
Yes, the book can be purchased on the website. You'll probably see that link on the homepage.
Perfect.
Scroll down.
Fantastic. So going back to this, and I'll give you some examples. And it's funny because comparatively speaking, in that relationship, you were actually not the worst, right? Like there was another person, another female friend who was also younger, who we used to battle. She used to jump in the front seat. Like we would all go out, and it was small things, but they felt huge to young, impressionable teenage people. But we would be going out to North Pier. Does everybody, Chicago folks, you remember North Pier? Not Navy Pier, but North Pier. It was an arcade just west of Navy Pier where a lot of teenagers would go in the 90s to kind of hang out. It was open late night. We were so innocent back then. But we would go out and we would all hang out at different people's houses and things like that. And this friend, by way of example, would jump in the front seat. And it was small things like that. And I was expected to just be okay with it. Oh, don't worry about it. It's fine. But those were the kinds of things that irked me and ultimately caused issues in our relationship. That relationship ended, which was fine. I think everything happens for a reason. That individual, he and I are friends to this day. He's married, which is great. And I'm super happy. His wife, when they were engaged, has been on my show before. So no love lost, right? But we all learned from those experiences. Let's talk about our reconnection, because you and I reconnected on social media. We got a chance to talk, and that's kind of how some of this conversation started about some of the past. I had shared with you at the time years ago that I was actually dating somebody with a very similar lack of boundaries. And what I appreciated about you is that you challenged me, years later, why are you still dating the same type of person? And so that prompted me, and I thank you for that. That prompted me in other ways to, number one, in that relationship. Hello. But
really?
Oh yeah. But I shouldn't have been in that. That's a whole nother show. But setting the right boundaries for myself. But I think it's just so important because you and I reconnected. And one of the things I want to talk about is just the whole aspect of forgiveness. And I think one thing that women don't do, and I see this often, women tend to blame other women for the shortcomings of men. And when I didn't like you, for example, I really wasn't mad at you because I didn't even really know you. My issue was really with the person that I was dating and his failure to set the proper boundaries, to have the right discussions. And he didn't know. We were all young, right? But I think what I love about you and I is that we don't let the petty things stand in the way of true progress, coming together, being supportive of one another. And I think forgiveness is a major component of women supporting women. We tend to hold each other in a very high regard. That creates judgment, though, sometimes, right? It's not necessarily respect. There's a standard versus regard. There's a standard that women hold each other to that we don't necessarily hold men accountable to. And so what do you think about that in terms of forgiveness of women with other women?
Well, you said a couple things, so I want to go back a little further to something you said a little further than that, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. So you were saying when you said that we are not, we're kind of risen above the petty things. And I would say in my mind, I don't think of it as petty. I think of it as we're mature enough at the stages in our lives and comfortable enough and confident enough. There's that confidence thing again. Confident enough with who we are now as grown women to immediately, when that subject comes up, not only laugh, but say, "Hey, you hurt my feelings. Yeah, this hurt my feelings, not you. I was literally telling you the situation made me feel endangered. My relationship was endangered by you being present because you were so great." So I'm like, yo, he's going to be paying so much attention to this great, cute, short girl. She's great and short, just like me. Why
you got to say short?
Well, we're short, honey. I mean, okay, all right.
No, I'm just playing.
I'm owning my space. You're right in it.
Own that height, girl.
Yeah, so we got the big personalities, and we're vibrant, and the big smiles. Yeah, but we have so much in common, and I recognized it then. So I would say we're mature enough now, and I would say, women don't do that enough. Just get to the bottom line quicker, right? The bottom line is you were hurt, I was hurt, and now we're somewhere else.
Correct.
And that's it. And let's just start where we are.
And that's okay. I appreciate it. Once again, you're watching Dana being Dana on Intellectual Radio and Facebook Live, IntellectualRadio.com and Facebook Live. And I'm here with Jacqueline Curie, JacquelineCurie.org. My girl, Jackie. So I appreciate you. Thank you also for tuning in. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for checking us out. So let's talk a little bit about since then. We've had very parallel lives. You got married?
No, I never got.
You never got married. Okay, you had a son.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that, because your book, My Gift to You, is about some of the struggles of a child.
Okay, so basically, I moved to Charlotte when I met my son's dad, and we got together very quickly. So it was kind of like love at infatuation type situation mixed all together. We were just completely infatuated with each other. And I moved here very quickly after meeting him. And I had finished my master's degree. I hadn't walked the stage yet, but I was so in love in my mind.
Yes, honey.
It was okay. And you know what? I'll walk across the stage later. So I moved here and I was pregnant with my son within the first 8 months of being here. And me and his father were together for 8 years. So when my son was born, actually when he was in utero, we were informed that we would have a child with some type of major special medical needs. And, they ran down the list of the things that it could have been. And what it turned out to be was a shortened bowel tract. So there's a percentage of kids, like 1 in every 1,000 is born with some part of their organ outside of their body, actually. And the organs have to be put back in, like pushed back in gently, and then they have to be sewn closed, right? The stomach has to be sewn closed, or wherever they came from has to be sewn up. And my son broke off his intestines. Some of his intestines broke off in utero. So he has a shortened intestinal tract. And that just led to a lot of up and down with my faith, a lot of emotional distress, a lot of grief, constant grieving for years, not knowing what would happen. Survival rates were not that high, and just living in disbelief day to day of this is my life. Right. And so the book really chronicles my faith journey, and it's a diary. I kept literally a diary my first 2 years, and then I skipped a couple years, and then I wrote some more, and then I skipped a few years and wrote some more. But that's what the book discusses. And I really think it's majorly beneficial to anybody who is caring for or knows a family member or friend who is going through a bout with anybody in their life that has special needs.
And
It is, yeah.
I think it's a great book, and I appreciate your transparency in that regard. I could relate to you because my son had special needs. He was diagnosed when he was 1 as being developmentally delayed, and it took 6 years for us to discover that he was diagnosed with autism. By then, my marriage had taken a toll, and I found myself as a single mother of 2 kids, the oldest of which has special needs. My son is 11. How old is your son?
He's 11.
Yeah. And so, our boys have very similar lives and experiences. And so just being a single mom, raising a child with special needs is not easy. And I think the whole point of women supporting women is so important. Can you talk about some of the women in your life who have supported you on your journey, both in your career and in parenthood?
Yeah, sure. Well, my mom is a critical force in my life because she's got a dominating personality, aggressive personality, in your face, no holds barred, but she's very intelligent. She's a physician, very well respected in the Chicagoland area, amongst many different communities, especially the Black community of professionals. And she's a wonderful woman. So she has really rooted me in my own strength, right? Like really constantly reminded me, you can do this, you can do this. And if you feel like you can't now, you need to tell yourself you can until it becomes true. So I use that with everything, right? I can do it. And if I feel like I really can't, I will tell myself I can until that becomes true. And it always winds up being the truth. So there's my mom. Then I have my stand-in mom, right? My stand-in mom, they're not.
You said fluffier.
As my mom, she's like a military drill sergeant. So I use that, and I want to tell that to remind people to use their network. You need to tap into people around you in your network, right?
So true.
Your parents are friends with good people for a reason.
Yep.
Because they want their children to see who these people are, and they want them to absorb something.
It's so true.
Right? And so I had a mother-like person that lived on my block, and she was an attorney. Her husband was a doctor, and she worked her tail off and cared for 3 kids at the same time. And I watched her nurturing spirit. I watched her raise a special needs child. And later on, I realized that God was preparing me by having her around me, right? Having me watch her and the sensitivity she had with that child, that was going to prepare me for this life.
That is so true. I did pro bono work supporting people as an attorney who were in the individualized education plan for IEP for kids with special needs. And so I was in Chicago public schools supporting people, often people who didn't speak English as a first language, and helping them to interpret their IEPs and advocating for them in the school system, not knowing that one day I would be advocating for the IEP of my own son. And I want to shout out my mother as well, who has been an incredible support to me just in life in general. But it's so many friends and so many people. The theme for Dana Being Dana this month is women supporting women. That's obviously the show that is on Naperville Community Television right now. But it's a theme that, like, I've been featuring a lot of women. I've been shouting out a lot of women. I've been talking a lot about women. And I think that it's so important to do it. It's interesting to me how I've been getting complimented for saying things, for supporting women. And because it's just something that I feel like we should be doing. I think it's something that should be more natural than what we normally do. And so I just encourage people to support women vocally, verbally, not just liking their posts and things like that, but being a voice, being a beacon of light for other women in some of the things that they're doing, because I just don't think that we do it enough. And I think the more we do it, the more it can become contagious and not something that's more of an anomaly. So let's talk about Oprah for a minute, because I went to see Oprah last weekend. She gave me all of my life when I was in Atlanta, and I went to her tour where it's about vision and your focus for 2020. And we'll talk about 2020 a little bit later. But one of the things she said, and this was the most popular post that I had this week. She said, you cannot be friends with anyone that wants your life. Specifically, last week, she said, you cannot move forward with anyone who isn't happy for you and your happiness. How does that impact women supporting women?
You know, when we say, how does that impact women supporting women? I know how it impacts this woman who supports women.
Yeah.
So I'm going to speak for me.
Yes.
I'm going to speak for me.
Yes.
And what I've seen happen in my own life lately, right? And so I want to take that statement. We got to be very careful, even when we digest those statements, right? You can't be around anyone basically that isn't happy for you or that wants your life. In reality, how often can we show up to a dinner with our girlfriends and say to ourselves, she wants my life. No, she doesn't want my life, right? You don't know and you can't control what other people are thinking. So I would encourage us to turn it around on ourselves and say, you can't be around someone actually who has a life that you envy, right? We have to be happy with our own lives, right?
Correct.
Our own jacked up journeys.
And right? It's not their fault. It's right. Not, in other words, like if you aren't happy with how your life has turned out, with the decisions that you've made, right? Because I look at life in terms of decades, and we're in a whole new decade. It's 2020. You know, we make decisions in our 20s that have lifelong implications, and we do the same thing in our 30s, and those implications are different. And now, you know, many of us are in their 40s or approaching our 40s, and so it's a whole new decade. And what I always tell people is, instead of spending so much energy resenting or hating what other people are doing, go do it. Life is short, and we'll talk about a little bit about that later. But
let me. I want to comment on that, what you said.
Yeah.
So here's where I am in my life, and I hope somebody gets something from this, right? I had to get myself. It took years to get myself to a point where I could pull myself aside from any social situation and any friendship group, and really just isolate myself in my own mind and come up with what is really important to Jackie, right? I don't want to be influenced by having drinks with girls and endless conversations. I don't want to do that. I was doing a lot of that, especially in the self-loathing. Like, you know, I feel so sorry for these things that I've had to go through. I'm a little sorry for myself. I look good, but feeling sorry for myself, okay? And so that's really easy to be muting with social interactions, all right? But at some point, you have to take yourself out of the social interactions and say, where am I progressing, right? And I realized that I wasn't happy with the pace of my own progression in my spirituality and my development mentality, my developmental mentality, right? Like the development of who I am. And so I said, wait, what do I want? What do I want? What do I want? And in order to find out what you want, you have to also experience different things, right? And so I started telling myself, what have I always wanted? Oh, I wanted to put out a second book. Someone put out the second book. But I needed to change the circle around me and meet new people in different places to start thinking different. So I met somebody who was a PR person. And she said to me, Jackie, you have a story. You need to share this story. I told her, no, I don't really want to do that. And she said, listen, when you get your head together about this, you call me and I'm going to do a book signing for you. Bam. We had done it. I finished it within 3 weeks.
Yes.
I sat on that book for 3 years. And so I told myself, all right, now, Jackie, we got to do something different. So if it's that easy to start moving that quickly, then I've got to set some higher goals.
Absolutely.
You know what, Dana? Yeah, this is vital for women to hear, right? I was so wrapped up in the bad things that happened to me that I had convinced myself before they even became thoughts that I couldn't do things.
Yes. A lot of times we psych ourselves out. And I want to just stop. I want to say the energy that you surround yourself with. And I know Karen's paying attention. Karen is my energy guru consultant, Karen Marzak. She's fantastic. And I encourage you to connect with her. She actually posted your site, Jackie.
Okay, thank you,
because that's the kind of person that Karen is. And truly women
helping women.
Women supporting women for sure. And so, but the energy you surround yourself with can make or break your situation. If you are feeling stuck, because remember what I said, right? Sometimes people don't want you to succeed or don't want you to have love, don't want you to have success because they're really worried about not they're hating on you. They don't really care what you do, but they care about what your accomplishments mean to them. For example, if I become successful, I may have less time for you. If I have a relationship, we may not talk as often. And so sometimes it's a selfish desire. So you got to pay attention to the energy that's around you. Thank you all. So many people are sharing. Thank you all so much for sharing. I really appreciate it, because I think this message is so important with the energy that you surround yourself with. And the biggest voice you have to control and pay attention to is your own. Because like you said, sometimes say it, girl.
Yeah, go ahead.
No.
No, this is like double dutch.
Get it. Jump in.
We're like playing. Okay, listen. So I'm glad that so many people are tuning into this, because this needs to be shared. So the thing is, when you say, the emphasis is women helping women. When I tell you, when I notice these things, I immediately, the first time that I had an event, the book signing, which one of my girlfriends has what talent that she can display at my book signing? And I said, such and such she makes desserts. Like, she's made all my birthday cakes. I hit her up. I said, look, girl.
That's a whole lot of cakes.
You need to go ahead. Yeah, it's a lot of cakes for years. I said, look. All my cakes look like wedding cakes now. I don't really want to share you, because I've got that large percentage of me that wants to. I don't want you out here making the banging cakes to everybody, but this is what we need to do.
Right.
If you're going to have a business, this is the time to start it, elevate it, project it, and boast it. And I want you to do it at my book signing. So I remember her telling me, she was caught off guard, right? That's really, really selfless of you to make this like in any part about me. And I said, no, girl, that's what we do.
That's what we do.
We have to do that. And why would I not?
That's so true.
So I'm going to talk about the girl who did my makeup. I'm going to talk about the girl who supplied the desserts. I'm going to talk about everybody.
That's so. No,
you have to elevate.
You do.
And bring your circle with you.
The rising tide lifts all boats. And for my television show, I've had so many women who have joined me, and not even just television, but radio too. But there's a core group of women who support me on the television show. The executive producer is a woman. The set design was done by a woman. Hair, makeup, jewelry, clothing, all women. And what's amazing about them, and thank you all, they tune in, they show up, is that they are incredibly selfless, and we help each other. We support each other, which I think is so important, because it's not only do they help me and they've helped me get my start. They're the ones who are sharing the show. They're the ones who are helping me out. They're the ones who are supporting me. And it's so selfless that it's my job. It's my duty to promote them and talk about how they hook me up. And I think it's just so important. And it's so funny, because one thing I'll never forget, I have a friend who is not a friend now. Thank you, Oprah. But when I got divorced, she said, well, at least you have your children. My marriage ended before I could have kids. And so it's just so funny, because when I was at a low point, and I was at a low more so not because I mourned the relationship, because I'm very clear that was not the relationship for me.
Okay.
But I more so was afraid of, did I let my kids down? Did I let myself down? I had never envisioned being a single mom. That wasn't my plan. And so what am I going to do now to make sure that my kids have the life that I want them to have, that I had planned for them to have? And it's so funny that even in your lowest point, somebody's out there thinking you're winning. Somebody out there is thinking you are doing things that are amazing. And so that's why I encourage people to make sure you surround yourself with people who lift you up. And that person said that years ago. And even now, one of the final coup de grace for me is that there were other people in our circle. We went to college together. There are other people in our circle who told me that this woman, they were like, she hates on you. She doesn't like that you had the courage to start your show. And I was surprised that I don't know if you've experienced this, but sometimes you just doing you can irk the demons in other people. They see you having the courage to try something or doing something or believing in yourself. Oprah said, bet on you. So I encourage you, anybody watching, bet on you. And I hope it doesn't happen to you, but sometimes that will stir up you don't you it's and this is what I said this before when it comes to having children, for example. One thing I didn't realize and took for granted was by me having children, what the impact was to people around me. For example, my parents, my mother, I didn't realize how much she loved being a grandma. Like I wasn't thinking about that when I had kids. Uh, Aunties, my kids are like everybody's an aunt, because they have so many people in their circle. It's the same thing when it comes to you pursuing your dreams and doing the things that you want to do. You'd be surprised at how that impacts other people. And what I encourage people to do is instead of being fearful or feeling daunted or feeling like you don't measure up or you don't add up, I encourage you to channel that energy into action that's productive. I've never been one to be jealous of other people. So I would always see somebody doing something that's amazing. And I'm like, how did you do that? That's how I ended up at Intellectual Radio. A friend of mine was talking about how he was on a show. And I was like, what you mean you radio personality? Like he said he was a radio personality on Facebook, media man. I said, tell me more about that. And he said, oh, I'm on this show. I'm at IntellectualRadio.com. You should come check it out. They're looking for more people. A girlfriend of mine who's going to be on my show in the future, recently, we talked today. And she was talking about how she's looking for her purpose. She's looking for her calling. And I said, why don't you be on my show and see how you feel about that? That's how things happen, right? I'm not threatened by her coming. She may come and love it and start her own show. Shouts out to Mark Gomez, Dr. G, to Your Health with Dr. G. It's another show on Intellectual Radio that started because he's a friend of mine and saw what I was doing. And so giving to other people, letting other people shine, helping other people find their purpose, I just think yields good karma if you believe in karma, good juju if you believe in juju, goodwill if you believe in goodwill, but it can all inure to your benefit. I find that when I am pouring into others, when I am blessing other people, when I'm shouting praises for other people, when I'm supporting other people, good things end up coming back to me. Things that I've never planned, things that I've never anticipated, things I didn't necessarily even want or know that were possible for me. Good things happen. You said what?
Yeah. So I'm hearing you. And so with hearing you, let me add a piece to that, a component, right? I'm going to say this. The reason why you can do that, okay, is because at some point, honey, you have accepted that God made you who you are, and there is only one you. And that no matter what anybody does next to you, on the side of you, above you, below you, beneath you, behind you, whatever, they cannot impede on what God has for you. And so that's why we are able to have that energy of, oh, you do this, let me try. Oh, she does this, let me do this beside her. Oh, you're down here, let me help you up a step. Everybody doesn't carry that mentality or feeling about themselves. And let me tell you something, baby. When I realized in the last year that what God had for me could not be taken, touched, tainted, or poked by anybody, you couldn't tell me nothing. Do you hear me? Nothing. And I have adopted the mentality of everything I want, I will pray for, I will ask for, and I will get. And that is what's happening. So when we talk about people, hey, no, girl, I am so, I've got one of those blinders that the horses in downtown Michigan have on, the blinders. The ones that are
the carriage rides.
The carriages?
Yes.
Yes, I have those on when I wake up, walk through the day, go to sleep. I don't notice what anybody feels about themselves, me, what I'm doing, nothing. Because I'm so focused on the list of goals and things I'm grateful for that I write out every day.
It's true.
Times a day.
It's true.
That I don't have time for it, literally. I don't make time for it.
When you are focused on what you're doing, you don't have a lot of time to be in FOMO, fear of missing out, competing with other people. People ask me all the time, like, what shows are your competition? And I'll be truthful, I don't spend a lot of time watching other people's podcasts. Maybe I'm not down with OPP. And the reason why is because I'm so busy. People didn't know this week. They were at the watch party. They were like, I didn't know you were a full-time lawyer, with a day job. And that's my truth. That's what I do during the day or television. I'm a full-time lawyer and I don't complain about it, but it's just that I'm busy. So if I wasted time pining away for what other people were doing, comparing myself to other people, I want everybody to win. And I have some haters out there. I mean, I've been through a lot, even from the very beginning. People who were originally on my show didn't like the fact that my show was growing, that I was collaborating with people. They felt like I was a guest on their show. And so therefore, I shouldn't be doing any other shows, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, the more the merrier. You know, I want everybody to win and I want everybody to walk in their passion. Who am I? Right? Who are you to monitor what other people do, to control what they do, what their destiny is? And if you can be a light to somebody, if you can help somebody, I promise you, you will get that back. So I want people, especially women, comparatively with other women, to be a support system to one another. Because you do not diminish your light when you help other people. You
somebody else's.
You diminish your light when you don't. You diminish your light when you tear someone else down. You diminish your light when you talk about somebody else behind their back. It's all about uplifting and supporting people. And don't get me wrong, there's going to be times where we have disagreements. There's going to be times when you get on my nerves, I get on your nerves, you know, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, there has to be a certain level of love there and forgiveness that women often give to men. We tend to be much more forgiving to men than we are to each other. And I want to be part of the voice of change. I want to be part of the movement that creates love and support for one another at the outset. For example, when people... Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry,
no, go ahead.
You know what's funny about what you said? Because not only do we give men more leeway than each other, we give men more leeway than ourselves.
Correct.
We forgive men more than we forgive ourselves for anything that we do that we feel that we should not have done.
Absolutely. Very much so. Very much so. I want you to opine on this for me. The statement is that daughters are watching. Little girls are watching their mothers and their behavior. How do we break this cycle of women not supporting women? What can we do? What can we teach young girls about how to support each other, how to show up for each other, so that hopefully the generations that come behind us see positive examples of women supporting women?
Okay, that's interesting. I believe, number one, we can teach each daughter that there is no second version of them, right? They are made special, as we all are. So it's okay to accept everything about you that's different than the person next to you, because that's the way God intended in all reality, right? Where does the sense of normalcy come from in society? This is normal, that's normal, do this, do that. Everyone's doing this. No, God didn't make us in his image in order to fit into the line, right? In order to be a part of the number. He made us in his image to each stand out as individuals. So that's the first thing we have to teach. We also have to teach that it's perfectly acceptable and encouraged to uplift others.
Yes.
And that we also need to be thinking about what we can help do for the next person. You know, just like, I mean, with anything, right? I'm always looking when my girlfriends come over here. I'm literally thinking when they're on the way here, what can I give them, right? What can I give them of mine? You know, we all got that one girlfriend, right? That doesn't wear too much jewelry or too much makeup. And we're always thinking, you know what? Such and such could use a little lipstick, right?
A little something.
You think about, I'm just saying, you'll think about the blush that you don't use or the lipstick that you don't use that you might offer her as her friend and say, listen, I think this might work for you because I do that.
Yeah.
That's necessary. We got to teach the girls that.
And we do. And finally, the last question, where do men fit in this equation of women supporting women?
Where do men fit in this equation of women? This is interesting. Do they fit in this? Okay.
I would say. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I would say that they should encourage it.
Agreed.
They should encourage positive interactions with women.
Agreed. And I think sometimes men can be they can instigate tensions between women. And I think being a force of support for women, supporting women, and not antagonizing the situation. Sometimes they stoke the fire. A lot of times men are afraid of being honest about how they feel about people, about situations. So they play the background. And instead of, reassuring people about how they feel, or, sometimes you got to check folks, and understand that, I love you as my sister. I love you as my cousin. I love you as my mother, but you don't have to hate on this person who I've chosen, or you don't have to, hate on my roommate or whatever it is. But sometimes they stoke the fire by being afraid of looking like the bad guy. Speaking up and having courage to stand up, being definitive doesn't necessarily make you a bad guy. I always tell people, be honest about how you feel so that you can let certain things go, let certain people go, and let everybody go off and find the things that they need to find in their life. Any final words, Jackie, on women supporting women?
Yeah, I want to give something final. I would say, just to round it all out, if women protected their own boundaries better, we wouldn't even have to do so much teaching to men about this issue, right? If we took our own boundaries more literal and more seriously, they would see what really matters and they would learn something from it.
Absolutely.
But women we allow ourselves to be in situations, swayed into situations we don't really want to be in. We have thoughts about going out with certain girlfriends because we know they're going to run their mouth and we can't take it. They know they're going to say something negative about us and we're going to have to, we're going to have to get a little snide, a little petty. I mean, we're already thinking about these things when we're feeling obligated to go do things, right? To be around our crowd.
Yep.
And that's something us women need to get better about, whether it's our families, being around our mothers, God forbid, our aunties who run their mouth too much, showing up to the family event, feeling like we're obligated.
Very much so.
We're always doing things to oblige other people before we protect ourselves. And I would say, as a clinician, I hope the women listening and men listening get something from this, because you've got to protect your own boundaries.
Agreed.
You don't want to talk about something at that moment. Honey, I got to go buy some bread. I will call you when I can.
Thank you.
You have to exit.
Yes, left. Absolutely. And on that note, I'm about to exit stage left because we have reached the end of our hour. This time has gone by so fast. I thank you, Jackie, for joining me. How can people reach you? Once again, what's your website?
Okay, my website is JacquelineCurie.org.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you so much for joining me. Women supporting women on Dana. It's 2020, y'all. The first month of January is ending. We are 1 month in. How are things going for you? Have your resolutions falling off? Are you still on track? It's not too late to get going on your goals. Even if you haven't done anything that you've wanted to do yet, you can start tonight, you can start tomorrow, and have your best year yet. Surround yourself with great people. That's what Women Supporting Women is all about. I can testify that surrounding yourself with the right people. Shouts out to all of the women in my village. I posted so many pictures in my story of different women who are my friends, who support me, who are sponsors, and I'll be continuing to post that throughout the rest of the month. Thank you all so much to Yoli Better Body Systems, Sophia Hussein, Hussein, Bling Things, Shoulder Bear, Jill Whitwer, Personal Stylist, Sandra Hernandez, Ray Design Company, and Veronica's House. Once again, join us in support of PAVE, promoting